Okay, we're doing number system student handout number 3 titled Where Do Fractions Belong? Okay, we're starting off with a sentence. We have to fill in the missing blanks. All fractions, decimals, and percents are blank numbers. However, some have more specific blank. Okay, so we know that we have whole integers and rational numbers. We said whole numbers are always positive. Integers can be negative and positive, but they have to be a whole number. And we had decimals and percents that we just converted earlier in our video from our last video. So these are called rational numbers. However, some have more specific classifications. All right. So every number has a place. Our job is to figure out where it goes. So the first thing we're going to do, we have a set of numbers right here. Okay? So if we know that fractions, let me underline this, fractions, decimals, and percents go in the rational numbers column. All right? So now, let's see, we have 1/4. 1/4 is a fraction. And we already underlined fraction. That means that fraction is a rational number. Now the next one is 10/2. But if you notice, this would not be considered a rational number because when you look at 10/2, that's an improper fraction, right? How many times can 2 be divided into 10? 5. 5 is a whole number. So 10/2 would go here because when you simplify this improper fraction, you get 5. So the answer would be a whole number for 10/2. Next, 4 2/5. That's a mixed fraction, all right? That's not one we have to switch improper. That is a rational number because it is a fraction. So 4 2/5 goes into the rational column. Next, you have -18/9. If you see that the numerator is bigger than the denominator, you know that it's an improper fraction. You need to reduce it and simplify it. So -18/9, you're thinking how many times can 9 go into 18? And that answer is 2. But this is a negative improper fraction, so that means you switch it to negative. The answer is -2. And we know that all integers are negative and positive whole numbers. So -18/9 goes into this one. And the reason why I'm not putting -2, because -2 is not one of the points down here, as well as 5 isn't one of the numbers that we graphed it. All right. Last one is -5/8. That number is not improper. That is just a negative fraction, and all fractions belong in the rational bar. All right. Pretty easy steps to do, but you have to make sure switch improper. If you need to write a note on the side, say switch improper to simplest form. Okay? If it's improper, make sure you switch it. That's going to be very important. All right, at the bottom. Oops, I'm trying to make sure I center this for you guys. I'll zoom out. Okay. At the bottom, we have this number line, and it says place the following fractions on the number line below. So we did this before with whole numbers, and we did decimals. Okay, so now we're going to take these fractions and separate them. One thing you notice, look at how the number line is spread out, all right? This is from 0 to 1. So this mark right here has to mean it is halfway. So I would think each half tick mark is a half. So this could be a half, 1, 1 and a half, 2, 2 and a half, 3, 3 and a half, 4. Okay? We're going to have some numbers that, don't end in halves, which is okay. But we're going to do our best to plot these in the correct spot. So we have 2/5, right? I can go ahead and see that that's not a whole number. So I know that it's going to be between 0 and 1. Now, we're thinking, could it be halfway? Now you have to think about, what is half of 5? Half of 5 is actually 2.5. So it wouldn't be necessarily at the half mark. It will probably be a little bit before that mark right here. And I'm going to label that A. Okay? So got that one done. B says -3/4. All right? Negatives is going to be the one that is going to confuse you the most. Remember that these numbers are getting bigger as well. All right? We're just going to the left. So you need to start with that whole number. Go to -3. We know that this is a half. And half of 4 is 2. So if that's at -3 and 2/4, we will be right here. So right before it, in between those two, will be 1/4. Because that will be 3, 3 and 1/4, 3 and 2/4, 3 and 3/4, and you have the next whole number. So right here is where B would belong. We'll go. Okay. Check that one off. C says 2 and 1/10. I know that I'm going to go to that whole number 2, right? So now I know that it's between 2 and 3. Now I know that half of 10 is 5. So if that said 5/10 right there, it would be in the middle. That doesn't say 5/10. So 1 will be right after that 2. And I'm going to label that C. You guys make sure you're pausing at any time if you need to slow down and go back and plot the points, okay? D, you have 2 and 3/5. I'm going to go ahead and go to my whole number 2. I know it's going to be between 2 and 3. Now, I know half of 5 is 2.5. 3 is bigger than 2.5, so I'm going to go like a little bit past that half mark, and this is where I'm going to write my D, because it's not all the way close to 3 yet. That would be like 2 and 4/5 would go right there. Last but not least, you have -2 and 3/4. Go ahead and go to your whole number. That's -2. Sorry, your integer. -2. Now you're going to count by 4s. This is a half. Remember we said halves is 2/4. So this is -2, -2 and 1/4, -2 and 2/4, and this will be -2 and 3/4 right here. I'm going to put E. All right, that's the best way to do it. Go to your whole integer or your whole number, and then you're going to count whichever direction you need to count. All right, the bottom part says fractions can be compared using like denominators. So we're kind of tying back in our fractions. Remember, finding the LCD, that's what we're doing right now. So the first thing, I'm going to write the steps right here. You need to make sure you have these steps written correctly. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the LCD. This is where we did find the LCD. You got to figure out what both of them have in common with their multiples, least common multiple. Next, you're going to rename the fractions. This is where you multiply the top and the bottom. Rename fractions. Number 3 says order, all right? That means you're putting it from least to greatest. That's what we're doing, okay? So that's why order is right there, because we're doing it from least to greatest. 4 is you're going to write original numbers. That number, sign me numbers, okay? That means, yes, this says 1/4 now, but if we change the denominator to the same thing, we need to make sure when we go back, we need to write it still as 1/4, okay? Because that's the original number. All right, so I'm going to do number 1 with you, and you are going to try the second by yourself. So I'm going to scoot this so you guys can see. All right, first thing you do, you're looking at your denominators. You have 12, 3, 6, and 4. All right, one way you can do this, you can go by and say, write 12, 3, I'm running out of space, but if you have more space, I would write 6 and 4. All right, go ahead and go about 3 times for each multiple. Remember, multiples are like 3, 6, 9, 12. Go ahead and see what is the first one. I'm going to do 12 last because that's my biggest number. So I'm going to do 3, 6, 9, 12. I went 4. Okay, with my 6, 6, 12, 18, 24. For 4, I have 4, 8, 12, 16. And for my first one is 12. So I'm going to see if I go ahead and look, my least common multiple or denominator is 12. All right. So I now have to change all of my fractions to be over 12. Over 12. So 11 out of 12. I don't need to mess with that one. That one's already 11 out of 12. I need to change my 2/3, 5/6, and 1/4. Okay. I'm going to come down here and work. Even though you don't need to, you can use a scrap sheet of paper. That's okay. Maybe I can use a scrap sheet of paper for you guys so you can see. All right. So I need to change my 2/3 to be over 12. I need to change my 5/6 to be over 12. And I need to change my 1/4 to be over 12. Okay. So now you're looking to see, what do I need to do to 3 to get to 12? I would have to multiply by 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. That new fraction is 8/12. How do I get from 6 to 12? That is multiplied by 2. Do the top. That's 10 over 12. And last, you do 4 times 3 to get to 12. You do times 3 to the top, you get 3. I'm going to go ahead and add back my 11, 12 because I didn't have to change. So these are my fractions that I'm working with. And the question wants you to order them from least to greatest. All right? But remember, when you're naming it, you have to write it back to the original fraction, okay? For these right here, okay? So our least fraction, if I look at these 4, the smallest fraction is 3 out of 12. But I can't write 3/12 because that's not one of my numbers. I have to write the original fraction, which is 1/4. So 1/4 is least. So I'm going to cross that one out. The next number would be 8/12. That's the next smallest. But I would have to write 2/3 would be next. And then my next number would be 10/12, the next biggest number. But I have to write 5/6. And last but not least, my 11/12 is the biggest, and that one I did not have to change. All right. So if you're writing your answer down on your paper, it will be, if you order it from least to greatest, it will be 1/4, 2/3, 5/6, and 11 over 12. Okay. There is another one at the bottom. And the key for this one is you have to convert these fractions. You can do it 2 ways. You can convert these mixed numbers to improper, or you can find the LCD between 5, 4, 20, and 5, which this one should be easy, guys. You should figure out the LCD really quickly. And then you could just multiply top and bottom and not worry about converting. But if you want to convert it to an improper, go ahead. You remember, you multiply your denominator times your whole number plus that over your denominator. Remember, multiply, add, and then divide. I want you guys to do this, but I want you guys to bring it to me for me to check to see if you did it correctly. All right? So this is the end of part 1. So go ahead, fill out this second one, bring it to me for me to check it. Then you may move on to part 2.